Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Today we have an amazing panel that will discuss business challenges, successes, and best practices. Our panelists will share what we consider their wisdom and provide diverse perspectives for DBE contractors, subcontractors working towards the ultimate goal of growing and scaling to be a prime contractor or consultant. Remember, what we have here is not only folks who are contractors, but are engineers. And I want to thank WisDOT for actually mixing this up because this is truly reflective of the DBE community. So as the moderator, I'll be guiding us through this process. And when I say that, everybody's been asking me, okay, Joe, what questions you're going to have? And I was like, no. It doesn't work that way. We have a short period of time, and so here's the format we'll be giving you and the idea of what to expect. We'll take a few moments for each of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their company, and then I'll kick off the conversation. Sounds good? Oh, wow. Yeah, I know this is a morning session. Sounds good? All right. Ooh, that's the table there. I can tell you that's the table. We all have to watch out for questions coming from that area there. So great. Let's start the conversation and the panel discussions. I'll start with Micky, and I'll start in the middle and work my way out. Micky, tell us a little bit about your company, what your company is, and how much you've actually done and how many years you've been in the business.
My name is Micky Day. My company is DK Contractors. We're located in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, which is by Kenosha, in case people don't know where that is. I started our firm in 1987. We've been in business now for over 40 years. We started out with just 3 or 4 of us. And now we've grown to seasonally, we have about 65 people that work with us. We do excavation and site utility work, some demolition and grading.
Thanks, Micky, because we're going to get into this conversation, and I think I have a specific question for you. So we'll start with Craig Clements.
Good morning, I'm Craig Clements. 18 years ago, started a company called Pro Electric, primarily doing traffic signals, intersection street lighting, runway lighting, which expanded into directional boring. We have an inside division, distribution for utilities, everything that way. We're 65-ish guys on that company. And then 2 years ago, I started a company called Pro 2 Pave, where we do concrete and asphalt paving, roadways, milling, overlays. That company has grown pretty quickly. So we're about 60, 65 guys in that one as well in 2 years.
Very familiar with your company. We'll go to Rick Rivera.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Rick Rivera. I'm president and founder of RGE Engineering. Started in 2005. We have offices in Beloit, Milwaukee, and Chicago. About 40 full-time staff now. We provide construction management, engineering, and design services for large-scale infrastructure and utility projects.
Thanks, Rick. And then we'll come here to Harvind Singh.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Harvind Singh, owner and president of Singh Associates. We are 30 years old, but I took over the firm in 2019. And we have my famous 3-headed dragon. We do full service roadway engineering, roadway electrical, so ITS, things of that nature, a lot of traffic signals. And then we do facilities, major transportation facilities, MEP, and communications. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you for my award that I won yesterday. I'm sorry I wasn't here to receive it, but I assure you, I was in DC lobbying for all of our DBE firms that are not getting PPP forgiveness, as well as some other issues that are important since the DBE new regulations are coming up. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Harvind. But I want to ask you just the first question. Was it a hostile takeover? I mean, you know, when you said it wasn't really.
You know, it was my dad. I had to kick him out.
Brutal. All right, we're gonna we're gonna do Bruce. Bruce, once you introduce yourself, we're gonna come down here and the first question is gonna be teed up to you. Go ahead. Bruce
Yes.
Spann.
Good morning. My name is Bruce Spann. I'm the president owner of Spann and Associates. We were started in 2006. Our primary client is our host of our event today, Wisconsin DOT. We primarily do design and construction management services. We've been fortunate to be involved in all of the major highway work in the southeast portion of the state, the 94 corridor, Marquette Interchange, Mitchell Interchange, Zoo Interchange, and we also do construction management work, both as a sub-consultant and as a prime consultant. We have a staff of 12 persons now, and like Harvind, I also would like to say thank you to DOT for the recognition of my staff and the work that they do, that I accepted that award on their behalf yesterday, so thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. And then finally, we'll just get this out of the way and give a round of applause to Shannon Jefferson, and I'll tell you the reason why. Shannon Jefferson. There's a unique reason why I asked you to give her applause. At the last minute, we had one of our panelists back out, and Shannon stepped in and said, this is a good opportunity for her as a DBE to actually come on board and start networking. But WisDOT thought that it would be a good opportunity as this DBE, especially a woman-owned business, to come and really share the good work that she's doing. So thank you, Shannon, for coming and be with us. I promise you that I wouldn't tee up any hard questions for you, but I lied. So, but why don't you introduce your company's name and give us a background of what you do.
Okay, well, thank you first and foremost for the introduction and for the applause. I'm truly grateful and humbled that the DOT would think that I could step in the shoes of Clifton, but here I am nonetheless. My name is Shannon Jefferson, and I am the owner and operator of Gibralter Industries, Inc. Gibralter, I think, is the only one on the panel that does vertical construction. So we work in the facilities maintenance division of construction. We do final construction cleaning. I started the company in 2007 out of a permanent layoff at Rockwell Automation. I was a contract analyst, and they were like, we're going to bring you back. And that was back in 2005, and I haven't been back. I've been a DBE, I think, since 2009, and I'm just really honored to be here. So.
All right. We're going to have you speak into that mic more clearly so people can hear what you got to say, especially those that's in the nosebleed sections in the back there. They need to make sure that they can hear what you got to say. So let's get into this whole discussion. I'm going to start with Bruce Spann. Bruce has been around, as he said, for a long time. And Bruce, I want to ask you the question regarding moving from being a DB subcontractor to actually being a prime contractor. You know, there's evolution of being a DB in WisDOT's, you know, in its stable certification, all those other things. Tell us a little bit about what process it took for your company and your fortitude in order for you to move from being a subcontractor, or let's just say being a team, being on a team that actually provide engineering service, to now being a prime.
Great, thank you. Well, for me, and I'm sure for all of our panelists here, the bottom line is the only way you're going to be successful in the service industry is you have to have good people working with your company. When they do good work, you find good work for them to do, they do good work, then that is how you're going to best be able to grow your company and to continue to grow, to provide services to your clients. When I started, I'm trying to figure out how far back I want to go. You gave me, I think, 30 minutes to speak. Right?
Absolutely, 30 minutes.
Well, but I won't take that. But I started. I'm going to start back to when I first came back to Wisconsin in 1993, and I came to work for a gentleman named Horace Edwards, who was a very successful person, the smartest person I've ever met in my life. And he was a graduate of Marquette University, was having served as a term as the secretary for the Department of Transportation for the state of Kansas. he decided he wanted to come back to Milwaukee after he graduated in 1946 in naval science and mechanical engineering, probably the first African-American to graduate from the engineering program at Marquette. And so in 91, he started his business, lived in Topeka, Kansas, never intended to come back to Milwaukee. And another friend of mine, who's also a Marquette graduate named Rick Norris, we stayed in touch. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time when Rick gave me a call. And he said this gentleman had started his business and was looking for someone to run his Milwaukee office. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not qualified to run his Milwaukee office because I'm just an engineer right now. I haven't run a business before. And secondly, I told Rick, said, well, I have no intentions on coming back to the Midwest, and especially not Milwaukee. And 4 months later, I was back because the moment I met him, as soon as I stepped off the plane when he flew me to Kansas City, I immediately tried to figure out how am I going to say no to this person, because he just looked like he was the epitome of success, and he was. So I came back and worked for Edwards and Associates for 10 years. I was the face of the company, which was his intent, to leave a legacy behind. He had no intentions on coming back to Wisconsin. He had every intention on coming back and helping to make a difference in a positive way. And the way he wanted to do that was to start a business and pass it on to the employees. So I was the face of the company. I hired our staff as well. He gave me free rein to run the company. I always said that I had 90% of the decision-making authority in the business, but sometimes that 10% of his would overturn anything that he felt he needed to overturn. So another key person that helped me once I started my business in 2006, because after he sold it to me and others, I had, philosophical differences with one of my partners. And I decided that I was either going to try to change that or I was going to move on. And another person that I use as a resource and as a sounding board and advisor is Ramesh Kapoor. And I was telling Ramesh about the situation that I was in the business that I was partners with. And I said, these would be the reasons I would stay. And if it didn't work that way, then these would be the reasons I would leave. And he agreed with my rationale. And he said, whichever way you go, I've been working with you guys for the past 13 years, and I will support you if you stay with them or if you start your own business. And 17 years later, he's still been that person of his word. I can't speak for how he's treated others, but Ramesh has been a very important part of the growth of my company. So when I started it in 2006, he told me about, well, we just won this project. We're going to do the study of the Marquette interchange. And he said, the good news is we want you on the team, but we only have 20 hours available per week for someone to work on this project from your firm. And at that time, I was the only person in my business. So I said, well, let me reach out. I went back to my alma mater, Marquette University, and posted a help want. And sure enough, one of the students there said that he was interested in working, but the only problem was he's only available 20 hours a week. So I'm like, okay, well, that's perfect because I need someone for 20 hours a week. He was here on a student visa from Turkey, and that's why that was the maximum number of hours he could work, but that was the maximum number of hours had available. Long story short, he came to work for us. I later hired him as a full-time employee. Not only that, he was a recruiter for us. I see one of his recruits sitting at a table back there. Branko Juric was also a undergrad student at Marquette while Omer was earning his master's degree. He helped recruit Branko and 3 other employees. And so a year later, I had 5 employees when the year before that, it was just me. And we had great employees doing great work. And that's how we continued to grow. We did work mostly as a sub-consultant, but of course, over time, our staff, as would be with any of the other firms, once you've been around, your staff gain more experience. We kept coming back to DOT and applying for opportunities through the solicitations for work, both as a sub and as a prime. And we kept going and saying, we're capable of doing work as a prime. We're capable of doing work as a prime. Here's the work that they've done and so forth. And eventually they started giving us smaller projects and we did well on those projects. And so now we're at a point now where we have a couple of design projects where we're the prime, and we reverse things where we have Kapoor and Associates as a sub-consultant to us as a prime. And we're starting, well, actually we started this past Monday. We're going to be managing our first very complex construction project for the city of Milwaukee and for the DOT, which is Valete Street in the city of Milwaukee from 12th to 27th Street. We're the prime consultant on that project. And we're just really excited about that opportunity. Once we put our best foot forward, do a great job on that project, we're expecting more of the construction services to grow with us, as well as we're going to continue to develop our design services. Looking for more staff, as is everyone, and hopeful that we're going to be fortunate to continue to find good people. That the best source, of course, is word of mouth. And if you already have good employees that refer folks to you, I mean, I automatically am ready to make them an offer if any of those people come to me and say that they know someone that might come work for us. And I'll stop there.
All right, thanks, Bruce. And for all the DBEs out there, I would call Bruce's strategy the flip the script strategy, when he actually talked about, him being a subcontractor to Kapoor, and now Kapoor is a subcontractor to him. It's always good for us to have those particular aspirations. Don't get comfortable in this DBE certification where you actually are always a subcontractor, but always strive to actually, it's the landing page. Let's make sure that we're actually able to compete on those, because the pie is so big that if we really understand our potential, that's where we actually make an effective relationship or the road building industry here in the state of Wisconsin. Thanks, Bruce, for that. And I was intentional so that you can lead off that discussion, because this is what you're going to hear from these panelists up here, is their own stories and their own experience. And that's going to be important for somebody to take some nuggets home. I'm going to come to Micky. We're going to go on the road building side, the horizontal side, right? Because we got two sides. We got the professional service side, engineering side, but then we got the road building side. Micky, you've been around for a while, right?
Yes.
Yes. You have some very skilled folks working for you.
Absolutely.
We were sitting at the table yesterday, and you showed me a video where one of your crews was out working at night, and I seen excavators and all those other things out there. Tell me the importance of skilled individuals in your company, and how do you grow that company, how you continue to grow that company, understanding that there are relationships with other organizations that are out there that makes your company that much more competitive.
We are a union company. We employ operating engineers and laborers. I think it's very important. I'm proud to be a union contractor. We have the unions provide very trained workers. Just up the street here in Coloma, 139 has its own training grounds. Any kind of new technology such as GPS training, anything like that you want your staff or your helpers to know, you can send them up there for training. I think that it's important to continue training with your employees so that they get better at their craft. And so all of our guys, we encourage them in the winter months when there's not any work to use the 113 training and the 139 training to up their skills. I think that it's important so that, and what helps with the union is that if we're short of help, we can call the union hall and say, we need a trained backhoe operator or someone that, or the laborers union, and say, I need a bottom man. And they can give you the name and number, or they'll send the employee, the future employee over so that you can interview them and you know that you're not getting somebody off the street that does not know their craft. So I think it's important to make sure that as an employer that I respect and encourage our employees to maintain their craft and keep growing their own.
It makes a big difference on federally funded contracts, correct?
Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm going to come back to you with a follow-up question later. But I'm gonna keep on this vein of girl power, so I'm gonna go to Harvind. The acquisition of your company, that was interesting because most times we think about starting a company, but we really don't think about acquiring a company. It's unique how you acquired a company from a family-owned business to actually become the CEO. Take us through the process of some of the things that you worked in to prepare yourself to acquire that company, and also your dad's faith in you to take over the family company's name.
I don't think he had a choice. None of his other daughters were going to do it. So yes, I have a unique path to ownership. I worked with Singh and Associates. I've worked for more than 20 years. I am part of the growth and the vision that we created. But with family-owned businesses, it's very hard to let go. It's, you know, you birth this fabulous thing you had a dream about. And even if it's family you're thinking of as your succession plan, it is very hard to say, I'm out, peace out, I'm leaving. But since I had been with my father for more than 20 years, since we were 4 people and then 10 people, and then bringing in the MEP services that we were doing, starting our Wisconsin office, I was there from the beginning. And the interesting story is I didn't start working for my dad because my dad asked. I'm a good Indian girl. And my mother said to me, we have this business and your dad is struggling. Why don't you go help your dad? And I looked at my mom and I'm like, oh no, I can't say no to my mom. So that's how you have to take opportunity that comes your way and make something of it. It doesn't matter what it is. So I did what I thought was the right thing and started working for my dad. It was not easy. Marissa is here. She can tell you I put on a good face many days because there's a generational difference in terms of what the vision or how I dreamed of growing our firm. And since 2019, we've doubled our gross receipts. And part of that is,
Can I ask how much that? No, I'm just kidding.
and part of that is just a new way of thinking about building capacity, getting out of the fear of, spending money and looking at things differently. So the transition was actually accelerated a little bit because my mother was sick. And so it was pretty smooth, other than, my dad thought he gave me this golden goose. And I looked at him and said, the goose needs to be stroked, man. I got to work a lot to make some money out of this because, as you all know, public infrastructure is not like making fidgets. If I made fidgets in China and sold them, I'd be making a heck of a lot of money. But this has to be, you have to be passionate because you're working for the safety of the public good. And there isn't always profit in it. There's people, there are hard choices, and you have to be considerate and aware that you're using tax dollars. So, it has been an interesting journey for me, and I'm fully vested. And my dad is a senior advisor, but then with COVID, he's like, peace out, I'm done. I'm not coming to the office. I'm not doing anything. So we're just going right along and working towards being recognized as a firm that has specific specialties and not just as the DBE, MBE that needs to meet a requirement. That is not our vision for ourselves. We are a full service design firm that can give anybody a run for their money. And I think having that attitude will really bring opportunity to you. And it's scary, really scary, right? Somebody will say, I have this, and you might want to say, no, I don't have 10 people to do that job. But you have to then talk back and say, hey, how about you give me 30% of that? Because I can give you 3 people, but don't walk away from the opportunity. And I had this, I'm blessed to have had this opportunity, and I've taken it.
Thanks. Appreciate that. I just hope my daughter don't kick me out of my business. I mean, she's pretty tough, man. We're gonna stay on this vein, not on engineering. We're gonna come back to the vertical side of it, because the vertical side, we haven't talked about it. We talked about the engineering side. We talked about the engineering, the horizontal side, but let's talk about the vertical side. And Shannon, this is where I'm gonna tee it up for you. You know,
Well, when I first started my company, I started.
wait a minute, let me ask a question first. I mean,
I'm
goodness gracious, I thought you weren't ready to come on a panel. You already, maybe I should just shut up and just let you do your thing, huh?
Not at
I
all.
was just kidding. When you first got into business, because you got a real unique story about Gibraltar, right? And, you know, just hearing some of it when we were kind of networking here, you got a passion in this thing, right? I mean, when you came into this, you know, you weren't an anomaly, but people didn't give you a shot until they really found out that you were coming in and kicking butt and asking questions later, right? So tell us a little bit about the passion and what drove you, number one, to get into the vertical space, but number two, what's your sustainable plan, right, to stay in it? Because all of us have to have a sustainable plan to stay in this industry, because time's going to get rough and times can be plentiful. Share that with us on a horizontal space that you're involved in.
Well, when I first started the business, I started out in residential facility services, and it was basically out of necessity. I was laid off with 3 kids, and I didn't have anything else at my disposal. So I was taking care of my mom at the time, who had just had triple bypass surgery, and I was the only unemployed child. And so as I was taking care of her in her 65 and older building, doing, you know, the things to help her, you know, in her recovery, then I would be taking out her trash, and the lady next door would be like, "Well, baby, don't you want to just come in and take this? I got this pound cake. So if you take this trash out, I'll give you this pound cake." And I'm like, you know, that's a really good exchange. Let me go on and get Miss Margaret's trash and take it down. And I realized in that process of going through something that was really adverse in my life, that this was a peaceful place. Like, I enjoyed the company and camaraderie of being in somebody's home and helping them do the things that they could not do for themselves. So I started out in residential, and I had 2 clients and I started in 2007. By the time I was at 2010, I had 200 residential clients, which can be very, oh Lord. So and then I got an opportunity to do, through Dr. Floyd Rose, brought Target in, and Target hired me in the construction industry. And I was like, oh, I like this. This is nice. So I did 4 Targets as my first commercial construction contract, and it's been upward since then. As we are changing, like, it's the embracing of technology that I wasn't really prepared for. I'm super old school. Like, I want to shake your hand and do a deal. And I want you to know that when you give me your building, whether it's 2,000 square feet or 200,000 square feet, I'm going to treat it like it's mine, because this is what I'm passionate about. And so, but it's the embracing of technology. It's the embracing of new industry standards. It's the embracing of, you know, things coming through from swine flu to, like, all of these, you know, to H1N1 to COVID, and coping with the changes in our industry. Because I try to explain to people about facility services. It encompasses literally everything. So the setting up of these tables, the vacuuming and shampooing of these floors, the monthly cleaning of these chandeliers. Because if you never do it in a building, if you never do anything, from the time that you build the building to the time that you close the building, all of us would be sick. So if you don't have the people that are putting the tissue paper in the tissue paper holders, and making
Thank
sure.
God for the tissue paper holder. Hey.
Thank God for all the janitors. We don't give it up for all of the facility services people.
He broke it down, yeah, didn't she?
The reason why you have hand sanitizer. So when COVID came, it just kicked everything into high gear and gave this broad attention to why cleaning is necessary and why facility services is so important. So it's just embracing that. And I've got a couple of things, a couple of irons in the fire that are going to be on the cusp of helping companies and organizations be more sustainable in their purchasing, because we only have this one earth. And if we are all using plastics and, so that's kind of my upward mobility into evaluating places like this that are huge, where you're throwing away all these coffee cups and all those plastic cups that are on your table. Like, how do we sustainably get you to meet certain thresholds where you're not adding to the contamination of our planet? So that's kind of the new direction that we're taking.
Well, hot damn. Let's give WisDOT a round of applause for bringing this woman on the panel. This was good. Thanks for that. That provided a lot of energy. So we're going to go back to my guy over here, Rick Rivera. I mean, we're going to go, because we're going to save Craig for last, because Craig's got some mergers, acquisitions, and startup companies, everything he's going to talk to us about. But Rick, tell us a little bit about, your journey. I mean, all you guys are in the space of designing the roads, safety for what we do, right? And sometimes we take it for granted that when we see a roundabout, or if we see a new bridge being built, or we see in things like Milwaukee 94 East-West, when it goes from 3 lanes to like 6 lanes, it's that way coming all the way back, and it creates a bottleneck. What are some of the things that you take into consideration when you take a look at those designs to make sure that they're spot on so it meets all of those safety requirements?
So thank you for the question. We're primarily a construction engineering company. From the safety aspect of it, we do a lot of due diligence on reviewing plans, on reviewing constructability, we review quantities. And so then we take into account some of the issues or concerns that could come up during construction. On the design side, that's not necessarily my specialty. That may be something more Bruce can answer. But we spend a lot of time and a lot of energy making sure our folks are fully trained, OSHA 30, OSHA 40, confined space training. They're trained for fall protection, all those types of things, in order to make sure that our staff can perform their duties in a safe manner. We have a pretty extensive program where we do near miss incident reports and JHA, job hazard analysis, to make sure that if there is something that it does occur on a contract, that it's shared with everyone at the company, so that we can make sure it doesn't happen again, or everybody else is aware that that's the potential for some sort of accident.
Have you had any this is the first follow-up I'm going to ask, is that, have you had any pushback from the project team as you guys are designing or doing what you do in that space? Have you had any pushback from some of the recommendations that you have? Because some of the recommendations may be unpopular, but they're necessary. Have you had any of that?
Yeah, typically, on our projects, site safety is a responsibility of the contractor, right? So the general contractor is responsible for site safety. The engineering staff is there to observe activities, document quantities, make sure quality is correct. But site safety is typically the responsibility of the general contractor. Our staff is responsible for their own safety. We want to make sure that everyone gets to and from, their projects every day. And we do our part to ensure that. But as far as, the motoring public, maintaining maintenance of traffic, signage, all that stuff, it really is a responsibility of the general contractor.
Gotcha. Let's go to my good friend, Craig. First thing he told me was, we were sitting down last night and at the reception. He told me, bring it on. I'm like, what? This is not the Jerry Springer show, man. I'm not gonna be. And he had so much energy that I thought to myself, when he spoke, if you notice, he is truly an entrepreneur and creating all of these companies, but all of these companies are interlinked, I would assume, right? So talk to us about the whole planning process of actually growing a conglomerate of companies that has the vision of the owner?
I don't know what I'm doing.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Happen.
Okay.
You said you're gonna ask me a hard question, and
Nope.
this is where we went?
That's a passionate question. I want to see the tears come out your eyes.
So, yeah, how did this all work? When I started my company, I was one man with triplets that were 6 months old. And
That's enough to make anybody cry.
yeah, the next 5 years were a complete blur. So we started in DOT, which was my background, traffic signals. And then that slowly started expanding where the work I was subcontracting out, I decided to start keeping in-house so we can control time and quality of it all. That led to several different divisions, which we started somewhat saturating the market. Not every aspect I went into worked out. We tried an Illinois division that crashed and burned within 3 days. Actually tried to go down to Florida. That didn't work out so well. So I started looking at my competitors and who was the largest contractors in the area. So we started pursuing We Energy work, and that didn't work out so well either. So I have a company with approximately 5 different divisions, but every time I tried to grow, I kind of hit a roadblock. So I decided, well, maybe I should just try a different avenue, a different market. So I kind of looked around and had some friends in the industry that did paving, and they actually approached me and said that we want to come work for you. I said, you don't know anything about electrical. And they said, well, how about you start paving? So we sat down with some cousin subs and started making some spreadsheets. And actually at that exact time, my neighbor behind me was retiring, and he had a small asphalt driveway contractor. And he asked if I wanted to buy any of his trucks. And I went over there and I said, what does it take to buy the whole company? We had a handshake deal that quickly fell apart. But in the process of this, I've already hired people. So I switched gears and decided to buy brand new equipment. And next thing you know, we're paving. So a lot of it works really well together. It's been a very interesting market. The paving side works in the private sector. Electrical, we don't do much in private, but the paving's bringing us in, and electrical's bringing paving into the public sector. So it's been a really good blend that way. And the other really interesting thing that has happened is I knew I was going to get busy starting a company. I had forgotten how hard it was to do that. So I hired a couple of people to take over my position so I could work on starting the new company, yet oversee my company. And I think that's one of the hardest things. When you start a company, it's your baby, and it's hard to let go. And I was forced to let go. And now I'm forced more into a role of overseeing, which has been kind of a blessing. So
That's just the surface part of it. I know that the challenges that you talked about, and I want to get into that from everybody that's on the panel. Not this question, but the next question. And think about it. I want to talk about cash flow, right? Because cash flow is important for every business to survive, especially in these margins, right? But I want to, the first question I want to ask you is that how many of you remember the certification process when you became a DBE? Raise your hand. Let me see. Everybody. Okay. So what? So give us your institutional knowledge of what you had to go through. No longer it's the big binder, right? You know, that you had to carry a backpack, that you actually got a backache when you had to submit it. So we're going to start from the outside and we're going to work our way in. So Bruce, we'll start with you as far as your experience when you first became certified with DOT.
Okay, well, when I first became certified as Spann Associates, I had prior experience with Edwards and Associates and with the other company that I and 3 others had, Edwards Engineering Consultants. So by the time I started Spann Associates, I knew what I needed to do, and I knew the process and what requirements were being satisfied with respect to the documentation that you needed to have. So it was easier for me by then, but still daunting to keep all of the paperwork. Now that it's electronic, it's easier. But if you're just in one state, like I think Harvind and Rick, for example, and myself, we're all either working in more than one state or looking to work in more than one state. So in my case, at one point, like was just talking about how you can start and then things don't work out the way you want. So back in the late 2018, 2019, I decided I wanted to try to get work in other states because like my first guy that I hired from Marquette is now in Texas. He's got 18 years of experience in San Antonio, and like, oh, I'll go work and get some office certified and authorized to do work in Texas. And Omer said, hey, I'll be happy to come run your Texas office. That didn't work out so well. Have another person named Iad Ghani, who used to work for DOT as well. And Iad is now in Tampa, Florida. Oh, I'll go down there and Iad will run my Tampa office. That didn't work out so well. And but the two that I do want to still try to make work out are Illinois and Virginia. With respect to Illinois, looking to partner with RGE, with Rick, looking to partner with Harvind in Illinois. And in fact, Rick and I have been talking about reciprocating. We're helping him here in Wisconsin, and he's helping us in Illinois. Want to go back to Virginia. As I said, I relocated here from Washington, D.C. in '93, and my son is still in D.C. and he's now married, and I have grand twins. So I want to get closer now to them. So I'm working on trying to get still work in Virginia. But applying in all of those states, it's that B to G or G to B, which I forget what the acronyms are, but yes. Well, all of them, had I known, I could have used the same username and password to go to all those different states. So each time I went to a different state, I thought I had to create a new username and password. It's just ball of confusion for me right now, but eventually I sorted out when it's time to renew my certifications in those various states. But it's been a learning process, and it's gotten easier, and I can help others also with certification if they would like some assistance.
Great.
Okay. Well,
Great.
I'll point you to Roz. That's how I
Right,
will assist.
Right. Yeah. I would just like to see your personal net worth statement. That's what I would like to see. I mean,
It's below 1.3.
I believe you too. Let's come here to Shannon.
Actually, my, recollecting when I first got certified, I didn't understand why they had to come to my office to like see if I was a Black woman, or I don't know. I just thought it was really strange, but all in all, I probably had an easier process. I think the DOT did a great job at like helping me through the process of submitting my application and making sure that the documentation was there. So kudos to the team that does certification. I've been certified, like I said, I think since '09. And so it was all paper. So, shuffling through that, I said I was old school, so I don't mind. A little bit less enticed by the electronic process. But the DOT came in. I remember Paul and another gentleman coming to my office to make sure that I was an actual business and helping me through the process of putting it all together. Like Rosalind, you guys, and Lori, you guys have already, and they are also very patient. So when all of your ducks are not in a row, I feel like they give you the ultimate patience, like get your ducks in a row. And then Rosalind will email you, get your ducks in a row. And then Lori will email you, didn't we tell you to get your ducks in a row? And I'm like, I'm trying to line them up, you guys, but they're patient. And so it was a pretty easy process for me.
Okay. We got to work on you though. But you're talking about saving the planet, but you still want to kill trees, with all that paperwork, We got to work on you, okay? All right. Okay. We're going to go to Harvind, since stay with the girl power. Tell us a little bit about your certification process.
So the certification process is like revealing your financial soul to the entire universe. So just be aware that your taxes for many years are out in la la land and you don't know where. But I would like to share something very great for everyone in this room. The certification process is very stringent, as it should be. And the folks that are certifying you are people that have to check boxes. So when they're asking you for stuff, don't get upset. Just find the stuff. Thank you. And as Bruce mentioned, we are certified in multiple states. I mean, I think, Marissa, 15? So one of the things that part of my DC trip is actually ACEC National for the new FAR regulations for DBE that are coming out, gave a white paper to ask for a unified reciprocity among states so that if you are certified in your home state, other states accept that certification, which would make the process significantly easier. And for those of you who don't know, each state, when we certify in each state, it's a no change affidavit or it's an actual certification. Each state has slightly different requirements of what they want, but they all want your taxes. They all want your personal net worth statement. They all want the same stuff. And so if we're able to get this change on the national level, and those regs should be coming out, I think, in a month or so, it will make it a lot easier for everyone in this room that's thinking about doing business in other states to get that reciprocity and not have to go through, it could take up to 6 months because you have to remember there's a workforce shortage. And it's not just us, it's the DOTs and everyone. And there could only be 3 people in a state's office trying to get the certifications for the whole state done. So it takes some time and it requires a significant amount of patience. But I think this potential new rule will really, really be good for everyone. But it is not an easy process, nor should it be, because this is a program that's designed for a specific purpose. So federally, they're required to prove lots of different things. And it wasn't to prove you're a Black woman, it's to prove you had an office, girl. All right, I'm just telling you. So it is not easy. I mean, we have offices in Illinois, Ohio, Wisconsin, Oregon, but we are certified in Texas, Florida, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Texas. And maintaining those certifications is, that's when you hire a lawyer, say you do it now because it's too much work. But if you want to grow and if you want to think like a national firm, you have to be in multiple states because of the cyclical nature of design work. We have the federal funding now, so perhaps that's not as much of an issue, but that was part of our original growth strategy, was geographic growth. And that's not easy either. But if you're passionate, you make it happen.
Thanks, Harvind. Rick, I saw you laughing down there when I mentioned certification. Do you have a horror story or something like that, or are you traumatized from the process? Or?
Yeah, it's similar to everyone here up here. The certification process is brutal. It took us probably about a year to get fully certified. I started the company when I was like 27, 28. So just, trying to teach myself, this, I wasted a lot of time. So the one thing I will say, and I see some young guys up here in the front, like if you're interested in starting a business, the earlier you do it, the better, right? I wish I had started sooner and maybe I'd be further along now. But the certification process, you just got to give in. Like Harvind says, I had a 3-inch binder that I would carry around with me everywhere I went. And I would literally walk to the different offices and try to see if I can get, my paperwork advanced. I know Bruce is dealing with the same thing down in Illinois, where we're working together to try to, get him across the finish line there. In addition to what Harvind stated, we are also certified in multiple states, Illinois, Indiana, Texas, Maryland. And that's primarily because a client would ask us to go out there. And now I do have someone in the office that manages that whole process for us. At one point, we ended up in the 8A program. We haven't really talked any federal things, but the 8A program is phenomenal. If you have a particular niche and you have the capacity to really deliver on large scale projects, the federal government has massive contracts. Actually, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday about this. It's brutal. Just got to give into it. It's like pulling your pants down. It's kind of one of those things that you have to turn in all your paperwork. Actually, at one point, I had to turn in my mom's birth certificate because just to prove that I was actually Latino. So I mean, it's like that. Don't give up. The earlier you start, the better is what I would say. And then, everyone's mentioning, when an opportunity comes up, take it. I mean, we've done that, and we've been able to really, move forward a lot faster because of that.
Good. I remember when we had a call and I asked you a question, you're like, man, you don't know me like that. And I was like, but you just tell everybody that you had to get your mother's birth certificate, right? So, I mean, I just want to make sure. I mean, after this, man, we have to sit down and say, okay, all right. Micky, tell us about your certification process.
Well, what? Okay, so let me remind you of HR Bill 5050, 1988. Before that bill happened, any woman that was in construction and wanted a loan had to have her husband sign that loan. So when I started my certification process, banks would not allow me to get loans or any kind of financial aid without having my husband, who was not employed by DK Contractors, sign my loan. So yes, I continue to be certified. Yes, the process is cumbersome, but it is, I thank God that a lot of these people have not had to deal with some of the issues of early on women in business, Blacks in business, trying to get certified and get financial backing without having other issues done. I think that I agree that it has to be stringent, but I'm grateful for the laws that have passed that made it easier for women. Right now, women in construction that own businesses, 13%. 13%. And when I started back in the early 80s, we were like 1 or 2%. So it has increased greatly. I'm grateful that the certification process is there. I'm thankful that I've had, when I first got certified, I think that staff and the certification program understood that banks were leery of women getting loans and being financially responsible on their own without having to have, quote, a man have my back. So I think that Roz has been helpful with me quite a bit. So thank you, Roz. And so that's my story.
All right, great.
Yeah, 940 pages for my application, my first one. It was back and forth and a lot of around and round with it. But I have a neat story that ended up happening with it. We got our DBE certification and it was a big binder and papers and everything. Just after I got certified, I had some issues with the bank I was at and I decided to switch banks. So I walked in and I talked to the vice president of a bank that no longer is in business, but I decided to move over to them, had a meeting, and he asked for a whole bunch of paperwork. So I went back to the DBE binder, copied everything, tabbed it out, and returned within an hour and knocked on his door. He asked if I had a question. I said, no, I have all the paperwork that you need. He said, how did you pull this together? Kind of lied to him. And I said, shouldn't every company be this organized? I got a really good rate on a loan and it worked out really well, but it does teach you to be organized and you should be, and it is hard, but it benefited my company because we just kept adding to it. I said, if this is what we need, let's just keep this up. And it really helped us in the long run.
You're a cool dude, man. Kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but
You should see when I start drinking, I get cooler.
he just told that he closed the bar down last night. That's okay. That's all right. One of my panelists closed the bar down. All right. But this is a DBE conference, okay? And I would be remiss. I was going to ask you a cash flow statement, but I'm going to see if I can save that until the end because we want to go out here because I'm pretty sure some folks want to ask you some questions. It's interactive. I mean, this is with your peers. So who has the first burning question? Oh, man, I just told them I couldn't ask them a question and nobody has a question from out there. Oh, all right.
I guess the question I have for everybody on the panel is, in today's environment with telework, how are you guys handling telework workforce development and collaboration amongst your teams in this environment where a lot of people want to work remotely?
Now, that's a question that you really want to ponder before you answer, because you know that.
You have the power. Just say no. No, we have, it is very challenging. And I think in our post-COVID environment, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so the majority, and I believe there's a generational divide in who wants to be in the office and who doesn't. And ironically, it's the seasoned folks that want to work from home because they know their job. It's the younger folks who are living in little boxes and need some mentoring that want to be in the office. We are a hybrid. So we offer a hybrid solution, 3 days in, 2 days out. But I think what's going to be telling is what happens on May 11th when we're no longer in a pandemic, and what industries in general do. But the isolation that telework creates for some people is really good. But as you said, for collaboration, et cetera, it's not very good. But, you know, you can give somebody as much work-life balance as you want. This is my opinion. Take it or leave it. But you can't give them purpose. So, you know, I can make sure that, you know, people are working their 40 hours and spending time, the other 40 hours, however they like. But if there is no real sense of purpose, which is what we have lost in my reflection during COVID, having all that balance isn't going to make you happier. So, you know, because a lot of people discuss that it makes them happier. And then also I do hear, I am so much more efficient. I get on the computer at 6 o'clock and I'm on all day. And I'm like, that's not healthy either. Like a little getting up and commuting and walking might be good for your health. So I think we're still going to see, but I don't see how we get out of having 5 days a week in the office. I think some type of hybrid is the future, and how that's managed is going to be really individual.
Anybody else? Bruce was first to the mic.
Okay, well, for my firm, it was business as usual, really, because since I've been in our office now in Germantown is I've been in that office since 2010, and for these last 13 years, basically, I've been the only person working from our office, and that's primarily because the majority of my staff are on construction projects. So of course they have to be on site. I have 3 people, three people now that would otherwise be in the office, but they work from home. They are responsible. I don't worry about looking over their shoulders to make sure their work gets done. The clients that we're working for, when I check in with them as well as with the staff, everybody's satisfied, and it's been working for us. This did not disrupt operations for our company when COVID came around and everyone had to stay home. I also am more of a person that I can work with people around or alone. Either way, I'm going to do my work. So I've been very fortunate that I have people that are reliable, responsible, and want to do a good job, and they've been doing a good job. And every time I check with them or others, it's not an issue for us. So we will probably at some point in the future, when the time comes around that it should be more hybrid, then we'll look at that. And as we grow more staff, we'll take a look at that. But with respect to Wisconsin, I don't have any issues.
Okay, Craig?
I learned a lot about my employees when we went remote. We just did it with the office, and I learned who is a hard worker and who isn't. Because when you can't have them in that environment, you see who's self-motivated. I had one individual that couldn't put work down, and that was unhealthy for him. We made a decision. We worked with my staff and their children, and we finally got everyone back together. But the biggest thing that I saw happen is I always view it as we're a team. And we didn't have that team anymore. We lost touch with each other. I'm still trying to pick the pieces up on that. So we're working on team building things right now, going to events to get the office to collaborate together. In the summers, one of my daughters works for me. So every Wednesday she cooks lunch for everyone. So we all sit down and we communicate because that was lost. I see that too with all of our meetings. These Zoom meetings are great. I can get a lot more done, but I've really lost connection with everyone. We don't sit in the meeting and go, oh, that guy's a jerk. I can't believe he said that. We don't have that anymore. That's how you make the friends. So I'm still trying to figure out how to get the team back together.
All right. Anybody else?
I was just going to say in the vertical industry, it never stops. So we don't even have the opportunity to be remote because we physically have to be on the job site, regardless to how we're feeling. If we're having a bad day, if it's a pandemic, it doesn't matter. If this building is being constructed and we're in here doing the facility services, you have to be on the job site. So not much changed in our industry. I wish that I could work. I wonder how I could clean these windows remotely. Let's see. If I could find out a way, maybe with Chat GPT or AI, some sort of artificial intelligence I can remotely from my bed watching Netflix,
my
clean the windows. I would be so happy, but no, not much change in the vertical industry.
Well, we just heard the creative side of Shannon, right? I mean, and I can tell you I had a hard time because I went in the Hills Farm with my pajama pants on. So I still had to make sure that I was able to transition from working remotely back into my when I worked for DOT. So any other questions that we have? Okay.
I just had a quick question regarding the.
You're gonna have to say your name, stand up and
Oh,
say your name.
I am.
Social
Angela
security number
Pope.
2.
Yep.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
Angela Pope. Well, they have all that through my application. Angela Copenhagen, Stevens Engineers. Looking at the DBE FAR changes, that is awesome. And I'm wondering how the DBE community can help with contacting legislators. I'm not an ACEC member, and this is first I've heard of it. So I just think it would be good for us to get that information and hopefully support you.
So there's nothing you can do because the FAR was already out for comment. So all the comments have been given. But I would say that the one thing every DBE, regardless of which space you're in, design or construction, when you get the email from Roz or somebody in the office saying there's a disparity study or there's something coming up and it needs comment, pay attention. Because those disparity studies need anecdotal as well as concrete information to ensure that the program is successful. So, while you may not have, even if you're not an ACEC or other organizations that tackle that in a different way, there are lots of ways to make sure that you're supporting things that are good for this space. And usually with the federal regulations, they come out on their own, like, oh, I've had an epiphany, let's make a change. And then they they ask for public comment. So that was done a while ago. So, and then I'm sure folks from WisDOT also gave their comments. But in general, I would say when they put a call out for comments or you get an email saying I'm so-and-so and I'm doing this study, join the meeting.
Great. Any other questions back here?
Hi, Candace Spears, Floor 23 Digital, founder and CEO.
Mhm.
My question is for the gentleman in the middle. So
Craig.
yes, it's you. I'm sorry, I couldn't recall your name. Yes. So you talked about having the electrical business and the paving business, starting with the electrical, then moved into the paving. One of the things that we're looking at, so I identify with, and I'm curious for your struggle, when you talked about creating capacity for yourself to focus in on paving and needing to have someone who would, let's say, step up and do some operations so that you can get this other business going. I would love to hear maybe some of the wins or some of the clicks that help you do that successfully, as I'm trying to do that. And the second piece is, I would love to hear your thought process in terms of that paving business. Did you just make it a separate division? Did it become a subsidiary of your current company? Did you make it a whole separate entity? What happened there?
So start with the first part. I hired 2 people on to take over my roles, and that didn't go so well. Only one of them's still there. The other person didn't make it. No one cares as much as I do about the company, unfortunately. So I tried to train. I spent a lot of time doing that. So replacing my roles in day-to-day operations was key to getting myself out to be able to work on the other company. With, as we all know, qualified help is our biggest struggle. On the paving side, I was very fortunate with hiring some qualified help. And I have a working agreement that in the future I will sell 10% to 2 individuals for a total of 20% in the paving company. So that actually pushed me to start up a completely separate company to work with. That hasn't happened yet, but future down the road is my goals for it. So running everything as completely separate as I could, yet combining the 2 companies to share equipment, to share resources, employees back and forth when we need help, has been very helpful in growing the company.
Great. So we got about 5 more minutes left, and I want to get this question out as far as cash flow. If each of you can kind of share with us just 1 minute, and then I'm going to ask you for your closing suggestion for folks. Just share with us why cash flow is important for your company, and if you've experienced any moments where a learning moment that you understood that cash flow was king for your company in order for your company to continue to survive. We'll start on this end, Shannon, and we'll move down to Bruce.
I am very, very, very incredible at budgeting because and cash flow has understanding how to operate within parameters and keep my cash flow where it is mostly fluid has helped me a lot. I can recall being on a housing authority project, and in the contract, it stated that we were supposed to be on site for these many days. And this was the wage that I had to pay my employees. But because I know how our industry works, even we come in at the very end of the project. So after all of the other people that have erected the building, and put electrical in the building, then we come in and we get it really pretty for, for whoever the end user is. They took our project over by 21 days. And when you think about it, having to pay 9 or 10 people an extra unregistered 21 days, it just, you have to make sure that you're situating yourself for the very, very best case scenario and for the very, very worst case scenario. And I learned that very, very early on in my process of running Gibraltar Industries. I learned that I have to make sure that I'm accountable financially for all the probabilities. So that's, cash flow is important.
Thanks.
So cash is king. And in the design space, as we look to bring more firms in, understanding the cash flow and how it happens is really, really important for somebody starting business. So to give you an example, let's say you went after a project, we are qualifications based. In January, you submitted your proposal. The selection and, we won, comes out in March. And then the NTP I get in another month. How many months are we? 6 months in, no cash yet, because I haven't billed shit. Oh, sorry. I tried, Marissa. I was clean the whole time. So you have to just be aware that when you are starting this business, your house is going to be collateral. You're the one who's not going to take a salary when you can't pay your employees. And the bank, truly, sorry, US Bank, I know you're back there, they don't really care. Because our receivables, Wisconsin is great actually, but we're over 90 days on receivables on government contracts. And that is not looking good to any bank. And so you really got to love what you do to do it every day and know that I might have to just not take a salary because I got to keep my people happy. I'm not giving them a salary is not an option. So cash is king.
Great.
Communication is very important with cash flow. When I was a new company, I didn't want to be the annoying contractor asking for money. I wanted to be the one that worked with everyone. And I found out that's how the industry works. So communicate with the engineers, make sure you have your pay estimates in, make sure you're communicating with your prime contractors, because it takes so long for the money to come through. Also, always have a backup, always have a safety net. Banks don't want to give you money when you need money, but when you don't need money, they're more than willing to give it to you. So set it up, have a line of credit, have a safety blanket that you can catch yourself if you should fall, but stay on communication with everyone, because it takes a long time to get paid and your bills go out. I had a problem where I wanted to pay all my vendors in 30 days because that's what they told me I should do. So I'm getting paid in 90 and I'm paying all my vendors in 30, and I'm growing, and I'm quickly growing out of money. So you start learning the system.
Yeah. Yeah. Mickey? Oh, there she goes.
That takes time.
Wait, Roz,
Okay.
come up and say
So-
that. Nobody can hear you.
So,
If you get a contract, all you need is send me your contract. If you get $100,000, $200,000, you do 50% of that contract, we guarantee 90% if you default, and you're not going to default. And as soon as you get it, we partner with First American Capital Corps. They will, it's paperwork. You know how to lie. You already got the binder. Okay? So you already, and then they drop the cash. It doesn't take a long time, I promise you that. So you don't have to be cash strapped, your DBEs, so just remember that we only got one person right now, all three of you, all 5 or 6 of you, I can't count. As soon as you get a contract, okay, please, I don't want to hear this cash strap stuff.
all right, Mickey?
Well, I'm sitting here going, wow, everything that these 3 people have said was the exact words I was going to say. It's hard when your AR is net 90 and your vendors want net 30. It's hard when your banks are looking at 90 days and they're not going to allow you to use your line of that amount of money and your reserve. Your house, as you said, is on the line. And I've offered many times my second born child because I know that I will get him back. Here, I'll give you my second born child because as collateral, and they go, oh, great. And then they go, oh God, take him back. But no, it is a difficult cash flow. I agree with all of them. You have to pay attention. And Roz, you're probably now going to get 300 people sending in applications for money, because it is something that we all struggle with, is trying to catch those balls that are now flying up in the air.
All right, Rick?
Yeah, leaders eat last, right? I mean, that's just the way it always is. When you become a business owner, you have to have self-control. Everyone's made a lot of really valid points, but I will say, as you start to see some success, really resisting the urge to take those distributions and making sure that your business is financially stable has been one of the key things that I've learned. I have a guy, outside consultant, that helps with financials now, and whenever I, think I might want a new car, he's like, yeah, Rick, no, that's not happening. So having someone that you really trust and respect to be like a checks and balances, and making sure that you resist the urge for taking cash out of the business is one of the most important things to, having a sustainable company long-term.
All right, Bruce?
Yeah, I agree with everything that was stated by all of my other panelists. And I also say, though, that cash is queen as well. So it is very important. I've been fortunate that again, for the most part, our company has been able to finance itself and grow through our cash flow. And that's because primarily our key client is, again, our host of today. WisDOT is very good about paying. I don't have receivables. that are 90 days out on WisDOT projects. There are other clients in Wisconsin, I won't name, that, yeah, I just got paid for an invoice that I issued in August of 2021. And I just got paid. It was a small enough amount though that it. Yeah, that's why I hesitated for the 17 years I have, because I've heard the stories about Illinois and thank you for that. I'll take that into consideration.
Thanks, Bruce. You know, if you take a look at this panel, it's the reason why it's diverse. And, you know, it's important for us to reflect the DBE support services in the DBE program. And that was actually done intentionally by Madalena. Madalena actually put together all of these folks in this panel with the opportunity not only for representation visually, but also a diversity of ideals. So let's give her a round of applause. And let's give a round of applause for Bruce Spann, Rick Rivera, Micky Day, Craig Clemens, Harvind Singh, and Shannon Jefferson, please.
Before you guys get off the stage, we got this jacket, Michael's jacket to give away. Okay, so we're gonna have our partner. To the pleasure. Rick, pick a card. If it's Dwayne Johnson, throw it back. Hey. And she wanted this jacket. She wanted this jacket.
Yeah, Shannon.
Here you go, my sister. You got the jacket. Put it on. Wear it with pride.
Well, let's give them once more a round of applause for this panel. And thank you.